Welcome, one and all. Welcome back to this. Yeah, we're back. Sarcastically optimistic. We're going really heavy. We're going really strong into this new year, as you can tell. Welcome back to this podcast. I'm really glad that you're here. I'm really glad to see you. And hopefully, you're glad to hear my voice again. If you're not, that's completely fine. All offense taken. But welcome back. Happy New Year, 2023, baby. It's going to be a good year. First off, I want to apologize for actually being so long and so late. That's what she said. But the thing is, I took a hiatus, and, there's no question about it. I'm not ashamed from it. There was shame in the beginning when I did take it. I think I haven't posted anything since possibly late October. But just a little recap of what's been going on. A lot of things have been going on in my personal life. My mental health hasn't been the greatest. I know you're like, wait, what? Like, it's wild. Like, mental health is a myth. No, I'm just kidding. No one says that. But yeah, I wasn't in the right headspace. And this project comes from a place that hopefully it doesn't feel like I'm projecting my problems onto you, which, sometimes I do, admittedly. Hopefully it doesn't seem like I'm reading off of a script or anything like that. Of course, I have a script, but I don't want to sound like I'm rote memorizing something that I previously wrote, because as all good content comes from the heart, most of all. And my heart really wasn't functioning properly, not like in the physical sense, but more so like it wasn't really in the right place as it was when this project started. So I just want to thank each and every one of you foremost for really taking a chance on me and being patient with me through this whole process. There have been several downs where I even questioned if this was going to continue or not. But, here we are. We're being consistent. We're sticking true to our word. All the material, all the words that are tossed around in this podcast, sarcastically optimistic, all the words of affirmation, whatever, we are putting it into action. And I think that's really where this podcast is coming from, is to remind you to take action on the things that you want to do in life and, just project our problems onto each other, I think. So welcome. If you're new here, welcome back. If you are not new here, I have no idea how you stood so long listening to this voice. I can't even stand it when I talk. Even though people say I love to talk, I still don't. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't. That doesn't necessarily mean I like the sound of my voice, right? So, welcome back. Yeah, Happy New Year. There's a lot of things to think about, right? Especially since the last time we talked with each other. Things in the house have been kind of rough, like family things came up and had to cater to that. Still catering to it. But there was a little tad bit of frustration in the beginning, as all ordeals that are unexpected happen, right? Like, it just, the consequence of unexpected and unpredictable things is we always greet it with frustration in the beginning. And there's no telling how we're going to emerge from the situation. So for me, it was a long couple of months of just deep frustration, holding it within myself, not really knowing how to and who to talk to about this stuff. And it got really lonely. And, this podcast is all about vulnerability. We can be sarcastic, we can be optimistic, but we're also vulnerable. So consider this sarcastically, optimistically vulnerable podcast. But yeah, I really appreciate if you're still listening to this, because I do fall off the wagon a lot. I'm really taking an initiative to not fall off the wagon as much this year. I really want to keep to the schedule, just to reaffirm you that, yeah, I'm aiming for an every other week schedule, every other Monday. I'm going to toast it at like 5 a.m. You can keep me accountable. If you DM me, we can make an accountability little bet. If I don't post, then I owe you $5, or I have to, take a shot, a vaccination shot. And, that's the shot you're thinking about. There's only so many vaccination shots we can get, My arm hurts already. But here we are. We are back in my room, and we are back talking to each other. And going back to the frustration points, yeah, I went through a lot this past couple months, and I'm pretty sure that some of you listening, you probably went through something worse than I did. And it's totally normal to go through all these things, and especially at the end of the year. Like, a lot of people glamorize the end of the year as, let's end it with a bang, but that 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 doesn't really necessarily serve those that are not having the opportunity to end it with a bang. And yes, maybe there might come an opportunity where it will end with a bang, like just like this weird miracle that will happen, and all the goodness of the year is just culminated into the last final days. And that was the case for us, and it was beautiful. So spending time with family, really reflecting on what I wanted and who I am, and who I'm portraying in this podcast, which coincidentally is not someone I want to be different from my ordinary self that you meet from day to day. Hopefully, if you talk to me in real life and you hear me in this podcast, there are more similarities than differences. Some people say I'm more chaotic in person, which I definitely agree, but it's definitely more befitting, especially if you're doing a solo podcast for now, right? That I keep it kind of marinating in a calm way, as you say. So I really wanted to talk about the real topic at hand. I know it take a lot of time to talk about a lot of mumbo jumbo, but I want to jump into the topic at hand. And there was this great article that came up. I think it was from an Ali Abdaal video, a podcast or something. But this article about defining what enough is for us. So let me repeat that. What is enough for you, right? The word enough, like, is enough a financial goal? Is it a finish line that you can quantify with a dollar sign? Is it something that you quantify with the time you spend with others? Again, this can go back to your love language, quality time, gift giving, whatever. But having enough is a really, really big concept that a lot of people really take for granted, is because we're in this constant pursuit in this life where we keep wanting the next big thing. And going back to the very first episode, lo and behold, we were talking about life is about the small wins. Now, regarding the small wins, that means you have to enjoy the journey to get to a certain point rather than the final destination itself. Like, we enjoy the process. We enjoy the steps that it took us to become whoever we are going to become, maybe a web developer, or maybe you're starting a new career and you're in it now. We should gratify more the steps and the journey and the steps that it took than the actual accomplishment itself, because there is a lot more happiness involved. And yeah, sadness, right? There are times, every down has its up. But when we reach that finish line, do we ask ourselves, what is enough for us? And this isn't like teeter-tottering on the idea of complacency, right? Complacency meaning that you're just like fine with everything. You're kind of like lax. You're like, all right, this is fine, like the dog in the burning building, like with a cup of coffee, like, it's fine. This is fine. Even though everything is not fine, like in a burning building, hopefully, but it's lit. Anyways, so I need to stop digressing like that. What is enough for you? It's a definition that only you and you alone can answer. Not anyone can answer for you. I know a lot of us are being helicopter parented, and your parents are telling you what to do, what to study, whatever. And it's kind of crazy how, like, we trust our 17, 18-year-old selves to sign up for a major that, potentially we don't even really know that much about. And it's really sad because, sometimes we just have to go down the default route where our parents are telling us what we should be doing, but we're not really using some sort of reflection of what we really want to do. And one of the big questions you can answer yourself, other than what is my purpose in life and what do I really want, is what is enough, right? That is kind of like having like an end goal in mind. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you stop at the end goal. It just means that, what is your definition of enough? And this can go both positive and negative ways. Positive as in, like, when is it enough that I'm going to realize that, like, that is where I'm, like, at my most happy, or, like, your happiest point, if you will. So, you can say enough for me is just sitting, like, relaxing at home, spending time with my family or friends or whatever, kicking back. And for some other people, enough could mean going to a 5-star or 3-star Michelin restaurant and ordering like the most expensive appetizer on the menu. Like, none of these are wrong answers. None of them are like really, really solid answers, right? Your definition enough can change over time. But as of right now, in this given moment, ask yourself, what is enough for me? And maybe it'll open up more doors than it should, because it's a question that not necessarily is talked about or asked in this day and age where like there's a new thing every single day, there's a new want, there's a new item that comes up on your Instagram feed or whatever TikTok feed that you go on, which I'm also a victim of course. Uh, but what is enough? And that is a question that is perfect as you kind of compartmentalize the entire year that you left behind you, 2022, as you came to a close. What is enough for you? Like what points in within this year that you realize that, yeah, this is actually really all I need to feel great today. These are all the people that are in my circle, and this is the perfect amount of people. Not to say that you're going to close it off, but like to attain this feeling of happiness, this feeling of meaningfulness or satisfaction, if you will. Like, you know your limits, you know whatever metric that you measure life with. Like, everyone measures, like we said in the beginning, everyone measures life in different metrics, whether it be money, whether it be relationships, whether it be gifts, material items. Again, like this society, we're very, very into material items, and it sucks, but like, it feels good to have a nice PlayStation 5 once in a while. Once in a while. You only buy it once, right? Unless you're a scalper. I'm looking at you, scalpers. But anyways, a positive thing coming from this, knowing what enough is for you, is because you don't have to keep pushing your overhead. You don't have to keep pushing and saying, okay, like I got $10,000. That's what's my goal, right? That I wrote at the beginning of 2022. I reached it. Now, like I should have gotten 15K. I had the ability, right? So like you don't beat yourself up. You understand that you can reach that finish line and you can actually grow even more, right? Like we're forever growing like trees, as my friend says. And that's really what's important in life, that you understand that you're a lifelong learner. Being a student isn't just within a classroom, it's outside the classroom. And I wrote something down, actually. I just want to share it. It's kind of weird. I wrote this at like 3 a.m. I was like, I just couldn't sleep because I was just like tossing and turning and wondering, like, what am I going to do with my life, whatever. But I wrote this: you could only read so many books. Solutions to your problems aren't in books. Actually, they're all around you in the form of experiences. Books merely allow you to adjust your lens of how you perceive these said experiences. Again, that was coming from my own maniacal brain at 3 a.m. in the morning, because I love reading. I really love reading books and whatever I can get my hands on, because it is a lost art, if you will, because I don't know if y'all went to grade school. I mean, most of you probably did. But if you didn't, no judgment. There was this thing called accelerated reading, and it was a thing where you had to read a book, and each book had like a specific amount of points, right? So let's just say like Pinocchio, which is like, let's say 17 pages. Like you can literally just flip through. It's a kid's book. It's like 2 points. But if you read something like Harry Potter, it can like range up to like maybe even like 18 points just for a single book. Now, how to attain these points, because they try to gamify the elementary school system, at least for my school, which was like hell on earth because of this entire system, because they thought it was fun, but like the people that were implementing it never really did it themselves and understood the long-term consequences of it. They just like, hey, oh, like let's try this system, and yeah, it should be fun. Like, but they never did it themselves. I digress. So I remember like just being so baffled by the idea that we're keeping score and we're comparing each other. This is before social media, mind you. I'm very old. We were comparing each other by our accelerated reading points about how much we can gain. And the only time that you can gain it is if you finish a book and you go to the computer at the back of the classroom during the designated reading time, whenever that may be, during your main classroom time, and you would take a quiz of like X amount of questions, a multiple choice, luckily, because I mean, for goodness sake, you're like in 3rd, 6th grade, whatever, and you take the quiz, and if you pass it, you get those points. If you get like semi-passing, you get like half of the points, I think. But if you fail, like you don't get any points at all. So the thing is, you can enjoy a book and you can be so immersed in it. You can be a terrible test taker, and then all of a sudden you're not gaining points for the book that you truly, truly love, like Percy Jackson or Harry Potter. I remember reading, oh my God, there's this book called The Land of Elion. I don't know if anyone listening can look that book up, but it's a great book. I remember reading the first book. I was so entranced by this book, and all I love fantasy, and I love this world, not that kind of fantasy, but fantastical things like in The Witcher and stuff. And this was like one of the foot in the doors for me. I took the quiz and I failed it. And I was like, what? Okay, so I didn't get points, but I love this book. And like the teacher was saying, like, he's a terrible reader. He doesn't like this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait a minute. What? So I was like, there's no way. And I, after that, I was so discouraged to read ever again, to the point where I like refused to actually adhere to the policies that they were putting for accelerated reading. I think there was a certain amount of points that you had to reach at the end of the month or each month or whatever. I didn't reach them because I was like, forget that. Like, why would I sacrifice my love for reading? This is rebellious stage, right? For the sake of points. To the point where when we had a student, like a parent-teacher conference, the teacher literally called me lazy and dumb, and like they sent me to a remedial reading class. And this is not something that I share with everyone, but this is an actual thing that happened. I remember going to the recreation center, and they handed me a book, and it was called Pinball Wizard, and they're like, oh, is anyone a fan of The Who? Mind you, these were like kids that were born like 1998, 1999. Luckily, I was born late, like my mom's older and whatever. And I know these older artists. I keep calling my mom old, but I mean, it's true. I knew these older artists. I knew like The Who and stuff, but none of the kids were like, who? And then like my instructor was, yeah, that's right, who? And then they're like, no, that's okay. Well, we're reading Pinball Wizard. I even forget what it was called. And the funny thing is that our instructor at that time went to our church, so he would like ask me how my reading journey is. So I would see him outside of this remedial reading class I had to go to every Saturday, and it's ridiculous. So I had enough, right? That was enough for me. I was like, one little book, and I failed it. The book I really deeply loved for the first time in a long time, and that was like a big chapter book for me. I had enough. I really rebelled against the system, and I got thrown into a remedial reading class. But now I'm not in a remedial reading class. I actually think that, I read more than the average person. Even when I was a teacher, I still read during my lunch breaks and things like that, and, watching funny clips on the side, but I would still read, and I really love books, and I love the feel of books. But the thing is, going back to why we're talking about books in general, and going back to this quotation I wrote in 3 a.m. in the morning, is that I can only read so many books. I love self-help books. I love business books. I know it's very deterring for a lot of you. You're like, oh, self-help? Like, who is this guy? Like, ew, gross, red pill guy. I'm not a red pillar for sure. I'm a fan of improving myself. I've made many, many mistakes, and I feel like I've hurt many more people than I think I have, and it really haunts me till this day, and I'm really, really trying to improve myself in that way through books, through the minds of older minds that lived in the past and a generation that still write these testaments that are still relevant till this day. And I really find that fascinating. Like Atomic Habits is so old now, and like Think and Grow Rich, and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. All these amazing gems of books are so neglected, and we just rely on the internet for everything. But there's something about having a book and learning so much from it. Now, going back to the idea of enough, there's only so many books I can read that I can take in so much knowledge, but if I'm not applying anything, right, like then it's meaningless. Like if it says that I have to be more forgiving in a book, let's say, I forgot what book that was that said I had to be more forgiving. I think it was John C. Maxwell or Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, but it was just saying being more open-hearted doesn't just mean that you're open to more opportunities. That means that you're more open about your emotions, and you're more open about embracing your faults and imperfections and allowing good energy to flow in. And again, like you can just read that and you're like, okay, that sounds cool. And you highlight it and you mark it and put an asterisk next to it or underline it with your little pen. Sorry, I'm calling out a lot of people that are reading, but you can only do so many underlines and so many highlights. But if you're not taking action on anything, then it really is meaningless. Like you're better off just not reading the book. Yeah, it's cool that you read the book and maybe it's working in the back of your head as you're going about your day. But if you're not actually taking action on anything, then there's only so many books. And how many books is it that it's enough that you are actually going to take action finally, right? So there's the little full circle here. Sorry I went on a little tangent on my elementary school teachers. I apologize, but they were mean to me. Again, projecting my problems onto you. So ask yourself, what is enough for you? And again, it can be positive. Like, what is enough for me that I can be fully satisfied for today? Some people, it's going out and like drinking at the bar, water with their friends. And then for others, it's just staying in and just enjoying the company of their partner and things like that. Sad. But all these things is enough, and that's positive. Negative could be, when is the point that it's enough that you start making a change, right? Like, when will you have enough of your current circumstances that you already fully are coming to terms with, that you're not really happy with or satisfied, that you're actually going to, project yourself further into the world or grow in your own way? When is that enough? So it's not entirely negative, but you see what I mean, where it's kind of shifting on the opposite end, where you're saying, okay, this is enough. Like, we're gonna do this now, and like that side is usually really prominent during the beginning of years, right? Or the beginning of New Year's, excuse me. And you see people going to the gym for the first 16 days of January, and then like January 20th hits, and like the gym is like not closed. That'd be crazy. But the gym would be completely empty. We've all experienced that, hopefully. So sticking to resolutions, goals, systems over goals, things like that, is a topic for another episode, because I guaranteed you very early on into this episode that I would be very consistent with this. And again, if you want to be my accountability buddy, where like I owe you like $5 if I don't post, feel free to. Yeah, I definitely need someone to keep me accountable. I really love talking with you guys about these things, because especially this topic, when we're going into this new year. Actually, we're in this new year, right? Oh my gosh, it's new here. But leaving this old year and looking at and assessing what we can fix and what we can change, like, what good have I done today, is what Benjamin Franklin always ended the day with. What good have I done today? And he always begins every day asking himself, what good shall I do today, right? So if you read a biography, always start with Benjamin Franklin. It's such a beautiful biography. I don't know the author for it, to be frank, Lynn. Woo! But it's a great biography. I think the Rockefeller one's really good too. Again, I just really love learning what these people were doing, not to duplicate what they're doing, right? You don't read Elon Musk and Steve Jobs' biographies to duplicate what they're doing, hopefully, but actually just gain some inspiration, a spark of inspiration, or just a spark in general that will push you in the right direction, that will push you towards action, that will actually, all these books are just to encourage you to be your own person, that being an outlier is reachable for you, that you can be your own unique perspective that you're going to insert into the world. And that's why in this podcast, we promote you as an individual, that you're unique, that you have something to offer in this world. And this world needs you. This world really, really deeply needs you for your talents. And a lot of us shy away. We're ghost following like so many celebrities, and, we're just on the sidelines, but everyone deserves to be off the bench. And the only person that can put you off that bench is yourself. By asking yourself, what is it? What are we going to ask? What is enough for you? What is enough that I'm going to be finally satisfied? Not complacent, right? Complacent means that like you hit a rock, or sorry, you hit an achievement and you just kind of like stagnate there. No, you're going to reach that achievement, and then you're going to realize that was great. That felt great. And those steps are going to build more momentum for you to achieve more of your goals and more of those things and whatever. So progress begets progress, meaning that an object that's in motion will tend to stay in motion. So stay in motion. I'm personally working on my own like things, right? Like health, mental, physical. Like I feel like I'm getting a little chubby up here. Hopefully next time you see me, like you'll be able to see my six-pack through my hoodie. But we don't know when that time will come. But I'm being very persistent and very consistent. And those are the two things that you really need to be. And being persistent doesn't just mean physical. It can also be meaning that you can be a persistent, good person every single day. And I'll admit it. Yeah, there are some people that came into my life are actually, that are just in my life, that I was reminded that are in my life these past couple months, that really, really inspired me to get back on this saddle of sarcastically optimistic and just to be my best self. And that sometimes being yourself is enough. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. I really, 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 I cannot express how how much gratitude I have for being here. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll catch you on the flip flop, yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.